Okay.
So this is just some of the more unique sets that I have. I really, I have the, like I was saying, I have these themes of common sets. So I really like these Stromberg 1543s with the cut corners, and those are the mahogany and the yellow and the blue are some of the rarer colors. This is probably the rarest phone I have, which is a prototype with a dial in the mouthpiece. It doesn't work.
So this was never used commercially.
Nope. And I think this was probably a concept back in the Princess and the Trimline days when they were trying to figure out what that would look like, and that was one concept.
Is that like an employee gift for
This
the Belle of Pennsylvania?
oh
Oh, it's
yeah,
fine.
probably. Yeah, it's a Christmas ornament. I think this is you'll probably find this interesting. This is a bit of a register from a Burroughs computer. It's pretty wild. Hey, do they still have ENIAC?
Yeah, they do actually.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I'm there all the time. Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Do they have like tours that people can go down or not?
Every now and then there are people that show up, like,
Okay.
but I think it's more on a university tour. But of course, they always stop there. So
Yeah.
yeah. Is the green phone a reproduction or is that?
Yeah,
original?
it's just a paint job,
Oh, okay.
and I love lime green. So,
Yeah, it's very pretty.
and then I have a couple clear phones.
Oh yeah, those are cute.
Yeah, clear butt set, which I think is really cool.
How many clear ones do they actually make? Because you show up more like novelty things usually. So.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. I think there's probably like 15 or 20. There's I think there's a 564 or 565 key system in clear, which I would love to find.
Yeah.
This is a small XY demo,
Oh,
which I got years ago, before I had the other stuff. So this is something that I'm going to get rid of, I think.
Is all the change for the payphones or?
Yeah.
And those are payphone keys right there.
Yes. A lot of the payphones don't work. I have to look at that.
Voice before IP.
Yeah, I just at work for a long time, and people thought when I used to go into the office, everybody thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is pretty neat. This is a Gamewell wind-up mechanism, and they had this is actually from a central office, but Gamewell made these systems for cities where there would be fireboxes out on corners, and if there was a fire, you would go out and break the glass. And this in a CO, they would put these in different sections of the building, and then they would have different codes. So, like, you might have, the first floor front and the first floor back, and then if there was a fire, it would trigger this. They had this this heat wire that you could wire into these things, so it would melt if there was a fire. And then like this one, You might be able to see it's got 22 embossed on it. So let's see. I think I need to wind it up. So either through a relay or a manual operation, the clockwork just winds down, and then it'll send 2-2 back to the central reporting station, and then they know we got a map of physically where 2-2 is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they still have some of this stuff like in San Francisco. Right there they have those iron police platforms.
Okay, yeah.
I think they're doing something similar.
And I guess that they were economical to they were relatively economical to install because everything's just in a big loop.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's sitting at rest, it just closes the contacts, and then any operated mechanism will interrupt the circuit on a big series loop.
So these were wired in series with other units then?
Yeah.
So what would happen if one was in use then?
If two of them tried to operate at once, it would I'm sure it would garble the signal. But the odds of that happening are pretty low.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure that they had some kind of mechanism to detect if the wire got opened, which is probably more likely and more dangerous because everybody thinks that the thing's working, and you go and pull it, and so there's a wire broken.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is a Kellogg Selectaphone demo right here. So these could be the real system had a larger mechanism that would hold 12 or 13 of these switches, and you might be able to see back there. There's a series of wires that go up and down, and each station has one of these switches. So this is number 5. This is number 4. So if I take 5 off and I dial 4, it rotates to the 4th position, gets on the 4th wire, and then I can push a button and manually ring the phone. You can keep stacking calls on it, so you can conference people in, if you will.
Like stacking is in going back and forth, or
well, like in 5, 5 can call 4, and then either one of them could call 3, and you just keep bringing more and more people onto a conference circuit, for example. I have a couple of these German Telenorm systems. So this is a one-link system that can have 10 stations. This is a two-link system that has 15 stations, and so there's 2 rotary finders. There's 2 rotary switches. One is a finder, so it finds number 7, and then if it has kind of a coarse sounding dial tone.
Yeah.
And I think it just rings it once. Yeah, it does. Oh no, it does interrupted ringing. And this basically does the same thing, except that there's 4 rotary switches, two line finders and 2 connectors, so you can have 2 connections going on at the same time.
So do these both allow for outside trunking, or are they just intercom PBXs basically?
That one doesn't, and doesn't yet. So at some point in time, I might make an outgoing trunk for it. This one didn't, but I made an outgoing trunk for it. But I when I moved, I haven't gotten that hooked back up again. So, and that one probably didn't, and there's really not any room to. There's not much room to do anything with it, so I probably won't do anything with that. This is relatively new to me. It's an AE side switch. It was made between 1910 and 1918, so it's 100 years old. And what's pretty interesting is how similar it is to ones that were made in the 50s and 60s. Next to it is an electronic version. I don't know if you ever saw one of those before.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that. What's the deal with that?
So I think when they started needing to do equal access to long distance, that was really challenging for step offices. So this company, TTS, I think, came up with this switch, and the idea was you could remove a purely electromechanical first selector and put this thing in its place, and it's got one of them's got a Z80, one of them's got a later processor, and you could program in digit absorption or digit capture, and along with a dialed number, and then say, oh, you're trying to use MCI, so I'm gonna step you up to level 7 where I've got outgoing trunks to MCI. So it was a relatively inexpensive way for people to, and I think mainly probably independent phone companies, and I don't think that like GTE or AT&T did use these things, but there's a lot of small independent phone companies where they wanted to defer buying some kind of an electronic switch as long as they could.
So is this the equal access where they said you have to be able to do 1+ to use whatever carrier of your choice on?
Yeah.
So as soon as you dial 1, it would like outpulse the carrier code that the customer.
Well, I think the customer would dial a 5-digit carrier code if you wanted to force your call to use MCI, for example, instead of AT&T. You would, instead of dialing 1 and 10 digits, you would dial 1, 5, and 10 digits, and that 5-digit code would specify that it was going to go to MCI.
Okay.
And it was so the users had everybody had these little cards in their wallet, like, what is my code again?
Yeah.
So before that came along, if you were in a step office, you would just dial the long distance code, long distance number. As soon as you dialed, 1 on your first selector, it's really just passing tip and ring through to later stages. But this thing would stop and gather up the entire number that you were dialing, and then it could decide, what should I do with this? If it's just a 7-digit number, so it's a local call, then it's after it determines you're done dialing, it says, okay, I'll just outpulse that stuff. But it needs to grab the whole thing, and that's pretty easy to do in a microprocessor based system, but pretty hard to do with relays.
Is that an Autovon phone there? Or?
No, that's
it's like a 3 on the right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 2-line. It's actually a Radio Shack phone. It's a 2-line with hold phone, which I really wish Western had made. But it has it has kind of the same interlocking type of buttons.
Oh, cool.
And then it's also a pulse to tone, which is kind of useful.
Yeah, it's pretty fancy
for various things. Let me turn on more lights around here. This is from this aisle alarm panel is from Lyons, Nebraska, which is underground bunker that John LaRue owns.
Oh, so
And,
it's not from a central office.
It's the same style used in central offices, and
Okay.
and these underground bunkers were built by AT&T using a lot of the same technology, but it has some interesting things. So it has like I believe RAD is a radiation alarm. I think this is. I think that stands for blast shutdown. So they had these. I don't know if you saw any. Have you seen any pictures of these underground bunkers?
Yeah, I've seen some videos and stuff. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, doors that are this thick.
Yep.
So John LaRue, who lives in California, bought at least one of them. Has pilot test lines and Looking Glass. Looking Glass. Have you heard of Looking Glass?
Like, as in mirror or?
No, it's a program where I think for like 25 years the Air Force had planes up in Canada on the lookout for Russians coming over the North Pole
Yeah.
continuously. So there would be. They would fly for 4 hours or whatever, refuel them, and when it was time for a shift change, they would get the next planes up there before the first ones left. So like for 25 or 30 years, it's like constant planes up there, visually looking for, I don't know, stealthy Russian planes or something. And
So is that why the Bell system built the dew line then?
yeah, yep. And so in Lions there were some things that some infrastructure that supported the pilots the pilot system. Let's see. I didn't get a chance to clean up very much. I apologize for that. We'll have to move some things out of the way, but.
Oh, it looks great down here. This is amazing.
So this is the main part of the step stuff. So this is the line group that I was telling you about. So from here down to here
Yeah.
is 200 lines. Up to 20 line finders depending on traffic.
And this alone is 1,000 pounds?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much would you say, like, this whole rack here might be?
I don't know. There's probably another 600 pounds when you add in all the frame. I mean, if you just even feel like up here, the vertical pieces that hold these things up are, they're pretty big.
Yeah.
So everything is extremely heavy duty. I spent a small fortune on gray paint and gray powder coating. So then just I have 10 first selectors up here for phones, 10 fifth selectors up here
Wow.
that these go through, and then I have 2 rows of connectors, so 200 lines of Western connectors.
Do you go right from the first selector to the fifth selector here?
Yeah.
So that's 4-digit dialing then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you've seen the digit absorbing cams that you can put on so you can do 7-digit dialing without sevens.
I've never actually seen one of those personally.
Okay.
I've heard about them, but they always interested me how they work.
Yeah, so this is a so there's these springs up here, and this is that's actually, let me see if I have here. This is more typical. so there's this snap-on comb that fits on around the rod,
Oh,
and then this one is programmed, quote unquote, so that
Yeah.
if you dial a 1, it'll operate that spring and nothing else. And there's springs on the left side and the right side. For this application, I'm only using the springs on the left-hand side.
I know those things were so tiny.
Yeah, and when I first built this machine, I had them on the first selectors. I was like, I want to do 7-digit dialing. They're a little bit tricky to adjust, and they're not really meant to be reused. So in the real world, if you wanted to change the treatment, you would make up the new comb. That's not the right name for it. You take that switch out of service when there was no call on it. You pop it out, put the new one in, and I think you throw the old one away. We don't have an endless supply of these things, so everybody recycles them.
Yeah.
And getting them bent back so that they're basically straight again is something that I don't know how to do right. So I always had switches that would work fine until you put the springs on, then they would start hanging up. I'm like, I'm taking those things off. I'll go back to 4-digit dialing.
Yeah. Are they hard to manufacture yourselves, those things? Or?
They're definitely beyond my capability. Yeah, I'm sure somebody could do it, but I'm not a much of a metal fabricator. And then, so here's the XY stuff. So let's go around the back first, so you can get an idea of what the. I'm really good at squeezing a lot of stuff on a rack. So instead of that horizontal bank system, here you just have these sets of wires that are 2 feet long, relatively easy to manufacture. I'm sure it took a lot of engineering and testing to figure out how to how far apart to space the supports and whatnot. And then you just have the only human wiring is somebody's got to go down and put a tail on it at one end. Stromberg always, in their advertisements, always talked about that this is inherently a better system because the banks are vertical. So, dust is not gonna, they put a little piece of something at the top to keep things from falling in, but dust and wire and stuff is basically not gonna get in there. I don't think I've had really a lot of problems with dust, but maybe in the real world they did.
So compared to some Stroger cans, like how many would this be equivalent to?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Like how much step equipment would this be the equivalent of?
Oh, so this is a selector's shelf. So the same as that 6 foot wide by 18-inch tall thing. So this is it's not quite as wide, but it's definitely taller. So it takes a little bit more space than the equivalent on Western. It's I would say it's about twice. Takes up twice the rack space, right?
Yeah.
You could fit you could fit a connector. You could fit 2 connector shelves in there, but the manufacturing cost is a lot lower, and the installation is definitely for a line group is a lot easier with an XY. The one thing that's interesting on this is when I got this, there must have been a lightning strike or something. So there was a piece of the wiper that was welded onto the wire back there, and I kept the original switch that was in there was replaced long ago. But every time, I put a new switch in there. If I dialed, I think it's 40 on that switch, it would jam the wipers in and mangle them all up. So I went through and just cut that piece of damage. And fortunately, it was on the outside. But so you kind of get the idea of those wire rods.
Yeah.
So if you come back, so I was telling you earlier about the universal switch. So, this is the same switch that is used. This is a selector shelf. It's the same thing in a connector. It'd be the same thing in a line finder. And basically, when you dial the first digit, it moves this thing out this way. There's I think these are called the XX. So you can do special treatment like digit absorption or something based on that. And then when you dial the second digit, it just pushes it into that bank. So it's a pretty cool system. And then on the inside these cans are the personality to make this into a selector versus this longer can makes it into a connector.
Okay. So do you have manual equipment too, or?
No.
So that one doesn't have a dial, right?
It's off of this.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we're here.
Yep. That's relatively new. That's the ringing machine, rotary ring machine that generates old style dial tone.
That's nice. Oh, it doesn't turn off automatically?
It does after about 8 seconds.
Okay.
So most stages of this equipment have a motor start lead that says that you might need something running, like a first selector. You might need you do need dial tone. So I don't want to keep my dial tone running all the time.
Yeah.
There's a couple interrupters that run and various other things. I have a couple of years ago I got this big industrial contactor, which I just think it looks really cool. It has no business in a phone setup, really. It's convenient that it has a 48-volt coil in it, but it's just like a Frankenstein kind of switch, and it has I think it has some kind of mechanical dampening. So the voltage has been removed from the coil since I hung the phone up, and it takes like 7 or 8 seconds for it to release.
Okay.
Which is why things run long.
And you use the same tone for all your different tones, just interrupted at different rates.
Yeah. I have one of the Don Frula tone generator things hanging from the...
Oh, the things he made recently?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So we're working on packaging that up into excuse me, into a card that'll plug into one of these card cages that a lot of people have. These Tel Labs types things. I think 2 years ago, some people made a board to do the plus and minus 130 for coin systems that fits into those card cages. And so Don and Steve Gemini and John Novak and Steve Flocky and I are working on a similar card that will generate cadences and tones. This is the ANI.
Oh, okay.
So these are the detector boards that I was talking about. So there's on each one of these cards there's 20 lines that go through here, and you can in this wire rep field you can set them up to be individual party, or if you've got a party line, the tip party or the ring party, so it can figure out on a party line how to identify the calling line correctly. And so if I dial on my system, actually this switch that we were looking at the cams on, this is set up as a service code selector. So if I dial a 1 on my first selector, it goes up to one of these 3 service code selectors. So they do exactly the same thing, but you can have 3 calls going at the same time. Whereas most of the other stuff there's 10 paths through, from the first selectors to the second selectors and to the connectors. But on outgoing calls, there's only 3. And what the service code selector will do is, when you dial 1, it seizes it, and it brings in a trunk on the ANI. Because if you dial 1, you might be making a long distance call, but you also might be trying to do some special service codes like
like the 11X codes.
Yeah. So 1186 will, if I dial 1186, and it'll seize one of these trunks, and then if I hang up, it'll ring it back. So the service code selector doesn't really know when it first gets seized what I'm going to do. All it knows is it's going to be 1 something. So it brings in, it keeps listening, and it brings in the ANI trunk, and then if I dial a 1 as the second digit, because of that notch on that spring, it's like 11 is a service code, so I can drop that ANI trunk off because you're not making a long distance call, and then I will complete the call the rest of the way. So on this system, if I dial, so first of all, I'll dial 1186, and that sees that trunk at the end. The red light came on, and then if I hang up, it should ring back. Notice that it's not. All right. Well, I'll look at that in a second. But if I dial 1 and 4, the 4, it's going to know. Oh, I don't have the little notch out, so it's not for me. The ANI trunk will see that, and it will send that into asterisk, and then on that Dottie channel, the context says, all right, if you get a 4, that's just a ring back. So ask for the identification of the calling number, and then send it out to a machine this machine down here, which is an automatic number announcer. So I'll do that. So I'll dial 1. All right, here's another thing that's not working right. Why is that? Okay, so that.
That's cool.
6, 8, 7, 8, 6, 3, 0.
So I don't know why it didn't work from the blue phone, but it probably worked from this one. So I'll do that a couple more times. Oh, I'm sorry. So first of all, when I dial a 1, I hit this service code selector, and there's also a green LED that came on down there because that trunk got seized. Now I didn't dial anything, so
Yeah.
I don't know what it's doing. Probably give me but if I dial 4, that 4 got outpulsed through the channel bank into Asterisk, and then it sends a signal back to over that E&M channel to the ANI system saying do an ID, which is what kicks off all of the relays chattering as it's figuring out and outpulsing what the ANI thing is. So it sends that via MF.
7, 7, 6, 1, 1.
And then once Asterisk has the number, then I have it place an outbound MF call to an FXO port, to an FXS port that's connected to that number announcer, and then it outpulses the MF. It stores the digits, and there's a Paul has an earlier version of this. This is called an APU, or an audio playback unit, and I believe this one is microprocessor based. So it's got it has the sound files encoded in an EEPROM. I think Paul's got some kind of a magnetic or photographic recording tape that plays it back in an earlier style.
So is this basically your MDF here? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
This is something that if I had to do it over again, I would have allocated more space because
Yeah.
it's.
How many lines do you have exactly here?
So I have 300 step lines. 200 of them are on the 2 Western connector shelves, and one on the XY. Another 100 on the XY. On the line group has 200 line and cutoff relays. Actually, it has 198. I don't know why, but they didn't populate the relays in position 11 or 111 for some reason. All the wiring's there, they just didn't put the relays in. So really 198. So I have the first 100 lines from the line group are dedicated to the first 100 lines on the first connector shelf. So the 86XX numbers, all 100 of those are wired through. The second 100 lines, I just pick them and either connect them to the 8-9 digits on the second connector shelf, or to the XY connector shelf, because I didn't want to put First of all, there wasn't an XY line finder shelf available that I could find, and I don't really have a space to put it, even if there was one.
So are the light bulbs that go off whenever something's off hook, is that something that was typically used, or you just added yourself?
Yeah, I just put those in there. So the and the basic ideas. The basic idea is I like light bulbs, so it was an excuse to have light bulbs. But usually, if a red light is on, there's something that is not. That's not right. So why? Yeah. So actually that one shouldn't be on. I turn. They're just not normally. They're not normally active circuits.
Well, I mean these light bulbs. Not
These lights. Okay.
Yeah.
So the white light is an indication of a permanent signal.
Okay.
The yellow is motor start is asserted. Green is a permanent signal, and red is a major alarm, usually a fuse.
Wait, so white and green are both permanent signal?
Green is release.
Okay.
I think I said permanent signal twice, but green is release. And then those are wired into this panel. But have you ever looked? Have you seen these 70 type fuses up close?
I don't think so.
So these are pretty cool. Here is let me get. So here's a good 1 1/3 amp fuse. Whites are 1 1/3, and I blow a lot of 1 1/3, so I know exactly what white is. And you know, a good fuse, there's hardly any space in here. And if I put this into this cap, it doesn't project out.
Yeah.
And much like all of these. But if you put too much current through and the fuse wire breaks, then that spring expands and it pushes it out.
Okay.
And it makes, number one, it makes the hat come out, so you can physically see which fuse is bad. But it also makes an electrical connection down through this little tab here. So if I put a blown fuse in here, so that gets detected. You know, if you push it in, it goes away, and it lights up a local alarm light here.
Oh yeah, and the red bulb comes on.
The red bulb comes on, and in a few seconds, the gong machine will start firing. We'll give that a second. But you know, if I see a red light, you know, if you walk around here, you know, like, okay, there's fuses there, there's fuses there, there's fuses all over the place. So where is it? You know, if you look over here, there's a fuse alarm indicator here, which is not lit, which means the blown fuse isn't here. Now we know where it is, but you can quickly walk around and find which one of these fuse panels has the local red light lit, and then you can look up here and say, oh, there it is. That's the one that's blown. So that this works off of mercury relays, these AdLink relays, and there's some I don't understand these completely. There's some interaction between mercury and magnetics. So I think there's a coil in here that if you blow a fuse, you know, current goes through one of these AdLink relays, and that energy in that coil is like pulling the mercury up slowly, and it's like I think of it like the way, you know, water bubbles up. It's not the same, but that's how I think of it, at least. And then, you know, over time, the mercury will rise to a level where it hits some contact wires that completes the circuit.
So this was the gong that.
No, the gong is over here. So
Okay.
that's the gong, and then
Oh, that's an audible.
that's an Audilon, yeah.
Right?
Not originally, but I had an Audilon dial and figured that would look really cool to have an Audilon console phone.
Yeah. I guess it's always nice to make a call and just hit flash override.
Yeah. We have to extend asterisk so that it can't place parallel calls, so that you can override something.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that a while ago. That would be really nice if we could do that.
Yeah.
And use that to give channel priority and.
Yeah.
So with the ANI setup you have, when you make a call to CNET, does it go out with the caller ID of the specific extension used then?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's a. I don't use. I usually make my outgoing calls from an IP phone because, if I was to walk up here and pick up this phone, which is 8626, and call, John Novak, he would probably call me back on that number, and I won't remember which one it was. And when there's a phone ringing down here, it's like, man, there's. All of those C4 ringers sound pretty much the same, I don't know which phone is ringing. And then one other cool thing that I did with Asterisk, and this is also something that's not working all that well right now. So I have 10 trunks that come out of a channel bank, and then they just go to 10 different lines on my line group, and I have Asterisk set up so that if I dial a certain extension, it will try to place 10 calls at the same time, interleaving them slightly so that everything makes a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have done things like that. I think like Phil McCarter's got a random number generator that will place calls through his switch. For me, what I wanted to be able to tell was what's working and what's not working when I place calls. I don't. There's no point. There's little point to me in just making a random call.
Yeah.
I want to know that things are going through correctly. So I have on this call director, and on there's a big black panel with a brown slope front that just has a bunch of indicator lamps on it. That's all tied into a bunch of 1A2 stuff in the back room that I'll show you. So when I call this test number, it's going to call 10 specific numbers that will show up on the call director, so I can tell okay what's working and what's not working. So you can dial I think it's like 9 tests or something, but you can also operate this green key, which just shorts out an FXS line on a channel bank, and has an automatic ring down. And you can see it only thinks that 4 or 3. I'm sorry, that three numbers went through, but which is kind of interesting because it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. And
Are
then,
all the lines that it tests are on that phone, or
Yeah.
are there okay?
also notice it's not hanging up, which is not right. So let me kill that. And then this is my release alarm simulator. So it's just holding the shaft from dropping down, which causes a release alarm.
Oh, okay.
There's a switch inside the switch. There's a spring inside the switch that can detect if it dropped down correctly, and if it didn't, it's applying power to a magnet in there, which will burn up the coil eventually. So that was a bad thing. So they have they put these release alarms, and so that's a green light there, and you can see there's a green light there. And back on that alarm panel that we were looking at, there's another timer circuit that's now counting. And after it seems like about 2 minutes, it says, "Oh, well, that you shouldn't have a release alarm for more than 2 minutes." So I'm going to give you a ding. And then if I pull that out, that green light goes down. That one will go down once it should go down once it takes a little bit of time for that AdLake relay to reset.
So are these just 5-watt incandescent bulbs?
They are, yes, they're 60 volt.
60 volt.
60 volt, yeah.
Okay.
And then a permanent signal is if you take a switch off hook and don't do anything. So so right now I'm tying up a first selector. That one little panel up there is the instantaneous. Right here. This is kind of the instantaneous view of what's going on. So, whereas these big bulbs are tied into the alarm panel. So I think this is more like. So this operates in 1200 seconds, or no. Trying to see what the units are. I guess it's seconds. So I think this is the permanent signal, which is between 50 and 30 seconds, and the permanent signal is between 1200 and 1800. So if I left that off hooked for that long, then the white light would come on, and the big white light would come on, and and also the gong would sound.
Does the gong just sound once, or just at an interval?
At an interval.
As long as the condition is.
Yeah. So it's really annoying when something goes fluey in the middle of the night. Yeah. It's
does that happen at all?
Yeah. I think it only happened once. If it happened with any frequency at all, I would disconnect it or put it on some kind of time of day circuit so that it doesn't drive Marianne crazy.
I guess it's good to know when there's problems. So
yeah, it is.
Are these magnets or
what's that?
What are these things? Are
These are
or just
they're the signs that go into the.
Okay.
Here's another radiation sign, I think.
So then when you have to program those somehow to go with the right sign, like to indicate the right condition, or are these just replacement signs for those fixed?
So I bought another I bought another one of those of the frames that had these labels in it, and and I need to just put these someplace besides here. Putting things away is always a challenge. Let me hang that phone up because we don't need to wait 30 minutes to hear the gong go off. So here's this is sort of interesting. So this is a proctored test set for testing coin lines, and if you dial it up, it's got a voice IVR that'll say, you know, if you want to, excuse me, if you want to do a, well, it's just, so it's on selector level 2. And notice it's not. First selector. There we go. Did you say something?
It says line test and then line. So you just enter an option then and.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and you know, on a coin phone, you can do a coin collect test, a coin return test.
Okay.
Well, this is underneath it is the previous generation, which doesn't have any kind of excuse me, doesn't have any kind of voice response system. So you have to know what digits to dial to do which function, and then it gives you, you know, different splashes of tone to indicate that something passed or didn't pass. I got this I think earlier this year, maybe last year, and it's not fully wired in yet, but
So do you have your payphones connected to this, or?
I do.
Okay.
So this one's different.
Is this a Cocad or?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a Cocad, and it has demo software in it, so that so that you can place calls. So, like if I it's just a regular dial tone, and if I dial 1. So it tells me to deposit the coin or insert a credit card. And then it outpulses it into Astro. And then it rings into my voice over IP phone. And it'll take coins or a credit card.
Which phone is the really loud one? Is it that one or?
It's I think it's that ringer that's sitting on the floor down there.
Oh, okay. So this is an actual phone company calling card, or?
Yeah. It's an old AT&T card that I got off of eBay.
Wow. So how is the validation actually working?
I think that the demo software just says,
okay.
you know,
Any
like
card
if it can read the card.
Yeah.
And I think I tried. Oh, let me try. I can't remember. I thought I tried like a modern card and it didn't read it. But no, it does. I guess I just wanted to have a card here for the Switchers tour, and I didn't want to use my personal Amex card and have somebody walk off with it. let's go to back here for a second. Almost positive this payphone does work. So this is a post-pay phone.
Okay.
So why don't you listen and
Okay, here's dial tone.
let me let the ringing machine wind down because it sounds pretty cool when it starts up.
Yeah, and you hear it at the same time. That's so cool. Wow.
Yeah. So what's a phone over here? 8666.
So are all the
Okay, so I dialed this number, and you can probably hear a ring back, right?
yeah. Yep.
And then when I answer it, you should get a dial tone.
Oh, so now I deposit the coins.
Yeah, now you pass. So I get battery. We can't talk, so you shouldn't be able to hear me, right? Because you just hear tone. And then when I put that in place, then
Yep.
it
Now I
cuts
can
through,
hear.
and now
Yep.
we can talk.
Oh, that sounds great. So I guess people just have to know when they hear battery, somebody's at a post-pay phone. Then
I think I think it was kind of the responsibility of the person making the call to have your coin ready, and as soon as they answer, put it through, because somebody might hang up on you.
And then are all the rates to your payphones like what's on the instruction card? Do you just put in 10 cents? Or?
Yes. So I need to get rid of that's like way too modern looking. But I think the instruction cards are right for most of these things.
So do you have like 10 cents for your phones here and 25 cents for CNET, or?
No, I just have it's the same for local and long distance.
And what happens if you dial 0 here?
I don't think any. Yeah, I don't have anything hooked up on 0.
Okay.
I'll get around to doing that someday. Let me I'll show you the 182 stuff real quick.
Oh.
So I guess I have 40 lines of that can be hooked up. I think only like 30 of them are.
Well, then you could use your 182 phones for outgoing, right? And then you'd be able to get a call back
Yes.
on whatever phone you were buying.
Exactly. And some of them I have to the right of the 806 ring machine is a 6A dial intercom. I didn't point that out yet, but I will when we're back there. So there's a couple of key phones that have a line on the 6A, and then typically they have a CNET direct number and a number off of the step stuff.
So the two numbers are different?
Yes.
Okay.
So like most phones. Well, I think the key phones I think have a common set of step numbers. So I think like 8601 and 8901, and then that's a CNET number. It's not actually 9999, but and then our FiOS number and a VoIP MS number.
Okay.
And most of the key phones around here have those same things in row one. If it's if it has multiple rows of buttons.
So you have all the important lines on the 182,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Did this number card come with this phone, or
Yes.
did you put that? Okay.
That came with it.
You always see those in the Bell System videos, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's see. There's. I want to show you this too real quick. I need to change the batteries. This is a Steve Flocky contraption.
Is this wired up to a trunk?
No, it's just wired up to this caller ID box right now. But what I want to do, and I'll show you the other side in a few minutes. I want to have a rotary or a dial pulse turbocharger. So this plate here will accept digits from a rotary phone and will convert them into touchtone. There's a there's a touchtone pad over here on the side, and instead of there being keys, the leads just go back to various relays. So let's see. So if I take this off hook and dial a 0, it counts the pulses, and then you heard it send a 0.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just for people who like to watch relays count. Okay, so and then another thing that I got from Steve a couple years ago over here is from a it's from a 5 crossbar, and it is a so it's a register and a touch tone to dial pulse converter. So this dial has a tone pulse button over here.
Is that just a toggle, or?
Yeah, and it's not indicating, so
Yeah.
it's hard to tell which it is. So that takes it off hook, and then if I dial, I think I can dial 11 digits into this thing. And it just kind of cues them up and then out pulses them. And that, I'm pretty sure that that's in pulse mode, because that sounds like normal speed. But if I do it touch tone, so I key the touch tone digits in. They get stored in these read packs, and then a digit at a time gets sent up here and out pulse at 20 pulses per second.
Okay.
So what I want to do at some future Lancaster show is I'll bring this piece and that piece and say, here's how you can make a 10 pulse per second dial outpulse at 20 pulses per second. And all you need is about 50 pounds of relays and 1,000 feet of wire. Has no real useful purpose at all. And I think
Will your step switches accept 20 pulses per second or just 10?
to be honest, I don't think I ever tried. I know that there was somewhat of an argument going on earlier this year between Steph Kerman and Vern Burke. And Vern Burke says he's been able to adjust all of his step switches so that they'll operate at 20 pulses per second.
And then, of course, your dials have to also be at 20
that's
pulses
right.
per second.
So then another kind of cool thing I have down here is this is a dial speed tester. It's an AE dial speeds tester, and a repairman could go out to a subscriber's home and dial an access code, and then dial a 0, and it would so you dial the access code. So in my case, you dial 1182, which will get you into this box, and then you dial a 0, and it will time the dial and tell you whether your dial is slow, medium, or fast. So here I have, this one runs between 13 and 13.5 pulses per second.
Oh.
So it's pretty quick. This one is a normal dial, and that one's pretty sluggish. So if I take this off hook and dial. That was not very impressive. So the 2 pulses means it's normal. One would mean it's slow, and I guess I think I forgot to dial the 2. So if I dial. So this should give us one splash of tone, and a pretty simple user interface.
And I was using this Bell speakerphone, right?
Yes, it's just an amplified speaker so that you can hear the results.
Did you make this yourself, or was
Yeah.
this okay?
Yep.
Cool. How hard was this to build with all the dials connected together and all that?
It's pretty easy because I just have the pulsing contacts are just in series.
Oh, okay.
If you try to dial with 2 dials at the same time, it would give unpredictable results. And then the shunt contacts are just wired in parallel, so it suppresses the clicks into the speaker. So that was pretty easy. Yeah, most of this stuff, it's a lot harder making the enclosure, getting the mechanical stuff together, and figuring out what you want to do with it than the actual wiring is.
And then are all the Windows PCs around here, are those for phone stuff, or like this one here?
So that one is I should I should power it off because I don't think I've looked at it in 6 months. I think I was since it has a serial cable on it, I was probably breaking into a router or a switch with it. there's one around there on the sofa, which if I'm sitting on the sofa and I desperately need to Google something, I don't have to get up and walk over here. And then that's my work machine.
It's cool. You get to work right in the midst of all this.
Yeah. That Proctor coin test thing that we were looking at earlier, it has built into it something where every 24 hours it does a reset and some kind of a recalibration. And when it does that, it grounds the sleeve to make it look busy, so if somebody tries to call it while it's doing its reload, it doesn't, it just shows up as busy instead of ring no answer. And you can see on the right side there, I added a relay for motor start onto that because I need tones and I need ringing voltage, and I took that off of the sleeve lead to make that motor start function. So long story short, it took me about 6 months to figure out why in the middle of the day the motor start lead would get asserted, and it's relatively, like if I'm on a conference call, it's relatively loud. With all the clicking and everything, and people would be I usually have things on speakerphone, like what is all that noise? I have to figure out why it's doing that. And finally one day I was on a conference call and it started up and I saw the little in-use LED come on the front of the thing. It's like, why did that do that? Get the manual on. Oh, every 24 hours it does that. Okay.
Does it have to do that, or is that just like?
I think it's. I think it's just burnt into the code, so it could be, it could be hacked, but it's not worth it. To me.
Is this blue thing up here a speaker?
Yes.
Like part of the phone stuff, or?
I don't think it's. I'm pretty sure nothing's hooked up to it right now. I think I want to put the automatic number announcer output through that. They're kind of cool looking speakers that were used in COs. Let's see, what else is around here? So I'm not getting dial tone on this one. Why is that?
Is it coin first? Because it says deposit coins.
8627. Hello. That doesn't sound right. So it didn't collect it. No, thanks. I didn't hear it. And now I don't know what's going on with the coin thing. Almost seems like the coin collector return. Let's see.
So did that phone handset there come like that with the bottom part off?
I think there's a headband that goes into the side.
Is this like an operator phone or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's It's well, it's a little. That's a number 53. You see these a lot. I think this is a 52,
Okay.
but it looks like the same kind of mechanism. That's interesting. There you go. I have to show you this crossbar machine. You have to move a couple things around. What else is